So today what I want to do is talk a little bit about what it means to take a religion class in a public high school. So the first question that I usually get when I tell people that I teach a religion class in Wake County schools is, well, wait a minute, isn't it illegal to teach and talk about religion in school? And I think that's a common misconception that a lot of people have about religion. So what I want to do today is talk to you guys a little bit about how we study religion academically, what it means to study religion in schools, what are our rights and responsibilities in studying religion, both to each other and the law, what are we allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and finally, just kind of introducing a little bit about the idea of what is religion? So we've got a whole course on it, but what does it really mean when we talk about a religion? So I want to start where I think it's important to start for everyone when it comes to talking about the rights of something, and that is the First Amendment. So the First Amendment really is the first thing that's going to dictate what we can and can't do in this class. So let's go ahead and look at the First Amendment here. So Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech, of the press, of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. So the only thing in the Constitution about religion is this one sentence, and it is only the first part of 5 of this one sentence. So Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So I'm a public school teacher. That means I work basically for the government. And what this is saying is that a state or the federal government can't make a law about establishing a religion. So when we talk about establishing a religion, that's saying, hey, this is the religion that is supported by the government. The government officially is setting up this religion and is saying that this is the religion that people have to practice. This is actually something that they used to do in Europe. So you would have the state religion and you had to pay taxes to the church just as much as you had to pay taxes to the government. There were laws about going to that church, and if you didn't go to that church, you could be fined and even arrested for it. So the founders of our government said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to establish a religion. That basically is going to mean that everybody is free to choose their own, which comes into the second part of this sentence, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So the government can't establish a religion, but it also can't stop you from practicing yours, right? So as long as you are following the law as part of your religion, there's nothing the government can do to stop you from praying or worshiping or doing whatever it means. Now, as a tool of the government, I cannot say this is the religion of this class. But if you choose to pray on your own, I can't actually stop you from that. And so that really is the basis of everything that comes to religion when we talk about it in a public school. But of course, because it is such a short sentence, there have been people throughout history who have challenged what schools have done. So let's look at really one of the biggest court cases that deals with this. So this is from 1963, and it's Abingdon versus Shemp. And so this is the Abingdon School District. And basically what was happening is in an English class at this school, students were reading passages from the Bible. Now, Shemp is a family who were atheist, and they didn't like the fact that their children were reading from the Bible. So they sued first the school district until eventually it got to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court justice at the time was a guy named Tom C. Clark. And they came out with a pretty interesting conclusion for what is allowed for a school. So in his decision, Tom Clark said, it might well be said that one's education is not complete without a study of comparative religion or the history of religion and its relationship to the advancements of civilization. It certainly may be said that the Bible is worthy of study for its literary and historic qualities, and nothing we have said here indicates that such a study of the Bible or of religion, when presented objectively as part of a secular program of education, may not be affected consistently with the First Amendment. Okay, that's a big sentence. So let's see what that's really saying. First of all, he's saying because of the value of religion. Religion has influenced civilizations all over the world, and there are so many people that you're going to interact with in your life who are of different religions. What he's saying is that, yeah, we should be studying religions in school. That actually should be part of an education. But he also says that looking at the Bible, or really you can say any religious text, is worthy of study, not for its spiritual guidance, but for its literary and historic qualities. So the Bible is a beautiful piece of poetry and a beautiful, part of history. It, describes these stories of these people in very literary ways and has a lot of really literary characteristics. And those things outside of religion are important to look at, which is why we do that in this class. And of course, we don't do just the Bible. We also do the Quran, the Analects of Confucianism, the Bhagavad Gita from Hinduism. So we look at lots of texts for their religious texts for their literary and historic qualities. And it says that nothing of that, as long as it's secular, as long as it's worldly, doesn't go against the First Amendment. So another quote that we have here is that we repeat and again reaffirm that neither a state nor the federal government can constitutionally force a person to profess a belief or disbelief in either religion. So yes, studying it for its importance is what you should do in education. But I can't come up to you and say, hey, what is your religious belief? Or you shouldn't believe in the religion that you do, because that is not part of the First Amendment, right? So you can see how this relates back to the First Amendment. So in public schools itself, there has been this question of, is religion important to study in a public secular school? And so there was a coalition of 17 religious and educational organizations that came together to kind of build a curriculum about teaching religion in public schools. And something that they said is the study about religion is important if the students are to value religious liberty, the first freedom guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. Moreover, of the roles of religion in the past and present promotes a cultural understanding essential to democracy and world peace. So basically what they're saying here is that studying religion is going to make you a better citizen of the world. It's going to make you kind of more open-minded and help you to understand why certain people do the things that they do. So when we study these different religions, some of these beliefs are going to be very different to what you may believe yourself or that mainstream culture teaches us. And understanding this helps make a more equal society. And so I think that that's another really important point when it comes to studying religion. So the thing here is not a lot of people understand what I can and can't do as a religion teacher. So this is a survey done in 2010, so almost 10 years ago, in 2019. And basically what they did is, what do you think, right? Do you know what a teacher can and can't do? So 89% of people knew that public school teachers cannot lead a prayer in class. So I can't come together one day and say, let us all pray, right? I'm not allowed to do that because that is establishing a religion, okay? However, I can do two other things. I can offer comparative religion courses, and I can read the Bible as an example of literature. Only 36% of people and 23% of people know that that is allowed, right? So that's one of the reasons that I encourage people to take this course is that, yes, it can be taught in a high school. It's not illegal. We can read from the Bible and the Quran and all of these other religious texts, as long as I'm not forcing that religion on you. So these are the key differences, right? There's a difference in teaching of religion and teaching about religion. So teaching of religion means I want you to become this part of this religion. Teaching about religion is learning about other religions so you can understand them. So just a couple phrases here to kind of let you know. So the school's approach to religion is academic, not devotional. We're not actually studying the Bible for our own devotion and worship. We're studying it from an academic perspective, right? Studying it to understand what it means and what it says and how it's influenced the world. The school strives for awareness, but does not press for students to accept any religion, which means that I want you to understand the differences between Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam and Christianity and Judaism. But I'm not saying that you have to convert to any one of those religions. You don't have to accept anything that I say is true. If you're an atheist, you don't have to believe what Hindus believe. I just want you to know what Hindus believe, right? The school sponsors study, not the practice. So studying about religion means we can study some of the practices. We can study meditation and we can study, religious feasts and festivals, but we're not going to practice them ourselves as a way of forcing you to be a part of it, right? I can't make you do anything that you don't want to do. So I expose students to a diversity of religious views, but I do not impose. So that means I show you about these beliefs, but again, I don't force you to accept any of them. I educate about religion, but do not promote or denigrate. So I'm not saying one of these religions is better or worse than any other. And that's very important. So I'm not gonna, bash someone's religion, but I'm also not gonna say, hey, my religion is better than yours. And the school informs students about relief, but doesn't seek to conform. So again, I tell you about them, but I don't make you practice them itself. So here's the ultimate question. What is religion? It's a complicated answer, but we can kind of break down a little bit of what it means when I say the word religion and what that kind of consists of. So religion is a belief system. I think that's something that we can all kind of understand. But religion also provides something to the people who practice it. So that's what I kind of want to look at. So I want to start off by showing you this little map of the world that shows you the breakdown of some of the major world religions. So you can see the parts of the world that practice these certain religions. This is something we will definitely come back to. But in this course, we're mostly going to focus on the big five, what I call Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Judaism. We'll also be looking at some others, such as Confucianism, Shintoism. But for the most part, we're going to stick with the big five, because obviously, as you can see from this map, these are the ones that are the most practiced. All of these religions have some things in common, but they all have some things that are different. But when you boil it down to the basics, all of these religions actually serve the same purposes for the people who practice them. So we call these the fundamental modes of religion and the 7 dimensions. So modes are, you can kind of think of like when you're putting your phone in silent mode or airplane mode, right? You're changing what your phone does. So religion's 4 modes change what religion does for a person. So there's 4. The first is existential. So existential means it provides faith and a religious experience to people. So this one is a little bit more supernatural. This is one that not everybody agrees with, right? But you will hear people talk about how like, oh, I have the Holy Spirit within me. That's an existential experience, right? So it provides that is the first mode, the existential mode. The second is the intellectual. So the intellectual is sort of what those formal statements of beliefs are, laying out like this is what I believe and this is why I believe it, right? So again, when you think about intellect, academia, same kind of thing. Third is institutional. So it provides institutions, organizations, first that kind of protect the beliefs. So that's what it means by containing them, but also transmitting, right? So when you go to church on Sunday, the beliefs are obviously something that the church holds very close. And when your pastor stands up and preaches, he is transmitting those beliefs to you. So that's kind of the church, the mosque, the temples for Buddhism. These are organizations that basically keep the religion going, right? And then lastly is the ethical belief. So ethical belief are the teachings that religions have relating to behavior. What is good? What is bad? What is a sin? How should I act? How should I behave towards other people? And all religions have something like this. And that's a really important part of what religion does, is it structures your behavior, right? And different religions have different ideas of what's ethical. And that's important to make sure you note. So these are the 4 modes. Next are the 7 dimensions, or 6 dimensions rather. And you'll notice that some of these are very similar. In fact, these kind of break down into the modes. So let's look at these here. So the first is ritual. So when we talk about ritual, what we really mean is worship, right? So rituals are some sort of formal practice that's being carried out, whether it is singing as a form of worship, giving money, sacrificing, taking mass, anything really that a religion does, right? You do as part of your religion. Baptism is a religious ritual, right? So these are the things that you do as a way to express your beliefs. The next is myth. So myth, we often think of as being like a lie, a story we tell that's not true, but that's not really what myth means. Myth basically is the stories that are part of religion. So if you are a religious person, you believe your myths. You think your myths are true. So when I say, if I'm telling the story of the virgin birth of Jesus, that is a Christian myth, but it's also something that Christians still believe in, right? So these are stories which sort of tell you about the beliefs, tell you about the practices of the religion. These are going to be found in the religious text more often than not, right? So in the Bible, the stories in the Bible are considered myth, right? Again, it's not saying that they're false. It's just saying that they're stories about the religion. The third part is doctrine. So doctrine is sort of the regulation of the beliefs, right? It's the idea that you've got a creed, for example. There's the Apostles' Creed in Christianity that says, this is what I believe as a Christian. It sort of tells you what's right and what's wrong as part of the religion. So like, this is what we believe, this is what we don't believe, right? So doctrine you can kind of think of as like of a book that's got all the lists of, this is what we believe, this is what we don't believe in it. It's different from myth because they're not stories, right? Story is, I tell the story of Jesus being born in a stable. Doctrine is, I believe in that story, right? Last is ethics, or fourth is ethics, not last. So again, these are the moral codes as part of religions, guides to behavior, the kind of foods you should eat, the kind of actions that are sinful, the kind of actions that are good. Should you, do charity, that kind of thing. These all come into the ethical part of religion. Then we have the social. Social is a very important part because this is the community aspect of religion, right? It's the institution. So part of religion is that you are in a group of other people who believe the same thing as you. And that's really important, right? So being a member of a group is important for your social well-being. And so being a part of a community of other people is very empowering for a lot of individuals, right? Knowing that there are people who surround you that have the same beliefs, that practice the same things as you, that's a really big deal. And then last but not least, again, kind of going back to the supernatural, these are the experiential. So those personal, spiritual beliefs. This is where faith comes in, right? So we talk about faith as being something that we can't see, but we believe in or we trust in. We don't really have an explanation for it, but we just trust that it's true, right? This is where faith comes in. So again, saying that the Holy Spirit is part of you, saying that you've reached enlightenment as part of Buddhism, saying that you have experienced a miracle from God, that's experiential. These are the personal spiritual experience that a person might have. So these are all of the things that religion does, right? And they're all very important because all religions follow these same 6 things. They have these same 6 patterns. No matter how different the rituals and myths and social institutions are, they all have them. They provide that for the people who practice them. And that's a really important thing for kind of structuring community, right? So as we get into talking about these different religions, you'll see a lot more of this. But I really want you to kind of keep these things in mind. And then last but not least, there are 5 questions that almost all world religions attempt to answer. So who am I, right? What is humanity, right? How are we created? Was I created specifically for a purpose? That kind of thing. Where am I going? What happens after I die, right? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do in my life? Is there existence after I cease to exist here? So do I go to heaven? Do I disappear? Does my soul reincarnate? What happens? And then what is right and wrong? What is good and evil? Going back to that ethics thing. So again, these are things that you will find in common with all of these different religions. So as we get into talking about these in the class, we'll come back again and again to these modes and dimensions and questions and sort of keep those in mind. So now you got the basics, right? So now that we understand what religion means and what it is and what we are and aren't allowed to do, we can kind of get in talking about the good stuff now. But until then, I will see you later.